But I guess first of all, how's camp been so far?
Camp has been fantastic. One thing that I like as an athlete is more of the boxing formula than the MMA formula. So in MMA, a lot of the best guys, they all train together, they have a big camp, and the coaches are kind of spread thin, and they're going here and there, and they have to pay attention to this guy and this guy. When I fight, I like to have the whole camp based around me, and the coach is only thinking about me when he comes up with game plans and he's making the lesson plan, and everyone comes and helps me based on specific training partners that I need, and I got that this camp, and it's just been an amazing camp, and I can't say anything bad about it.
Now, you're only a few days away from arguably the biggest fight of your entire life. I mean, do you feel any pressure right now? What's the mentality going into it?
I'm a few days out from the biggest fight of my life, but I don't really feel any pressure. The truth is, I've done all the hard work. I knew what I had to do, and I got it done in the practice room. So I did everything I needed to do, and I feel super confident. I feel really prepared. I've been under the bright lights before. I fought on big shows. I've won world titles. To me, it's just another fight. I'm treating it like, even though the circumstances are a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm. For people who maybe haven't seen you fight, how would you kind of describe your style?
My style is I'm very aggressive. I have, out of 14 professional wins, 11 are in the first round. So I'm a get in, get out, don't get paid by the hour type of guy, but it's not always my goal. My goal is to win and be smart and win obviously the easiest way possible. And I just see openings and take it. So one thing people have learned against me is that all it takes is one mistake from you and your night's over.
Mm-hmm. So what does fighting mean to you?
Fighting to me is really just a lifestyle and a hobby. It's something I started doing because I wanted to learn how to defend myself. And then I happened to have a teammate that was fighting, so I went to go watch his fights. And I was like, hey, I think I could beat these people up. So I just booked my first fight. I asked my coach, obviously, first what I had to do. He laid out everything I had to do to get ready to fight, and I did it. So when I was ready, I went out there, and I had my first fight, and I was hooked.
First of all, you said you wrestled in high school?
In college.
In college, okay. I think I heard an interview recently saying that you lost a lot in a row. What was that experience like, and how'd you kind of get over that?
The cool thing about my story, and something that is very interesting to me that I actually love, is that I wasn't a natural at what I did. I actually lost my first 17 wrestling matches. So I went in as this tiny little freshman, 103-pound weight class, but I only weighed 97 pounds. And I just got smashed by everyone. I lost my first 17 matches. I think I got pinned in 14 of them. So the ones I didn't get pinned in were wins to me, And but it didn't settle well with me that I was not good at something. So in the summertime, while everyone was out partying, playing, doing whatever, I was in the wrestling room training, and then I didn't have a losing season ever since. I ended up being all-state, and I captained my college team twice.
When you first started wrestling, I'm sure people kind of questioned it based on only having one hand. What was the reaction when you first joined the team?
Actually, you'd be surprised when I first joined the wrestling team. Wrestling is a team, so they did not have a guy at 103 pounds to wrestle. So they were like, awesome, we'll take this guy. He gets smashed by everyone, but if they don't have a person in that weight class, we can get a forfeit. And then I won, I think, 6 matches by forfeit that year. I ended up going 8-22. But they were receptive to me and really tried to help me and make me better. My high school wrestling coach takes it very, very seriously. He's still a very, very good friend of mine, and he believed in me. He saw how hard I worked, and he saw my heart, and he was all in for me. And he ended up being right, because I ended up setting state records in high school for Connecticut.
And so after high school, you wrestled in college, and then when did you kind of decide you wanted to look into MMA as a career?
When the first time I was ever exposed to mixed martial arts was, I had a friend, Pete Pensavenga, and he was on the wrestling team with me, and he wanted me to come over to watch Ken Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz 1, the first one. And I love Ken Shamrock because I love the WWE, and I was like, oh, no one beats Ken Shamrock. And then I saw Tito just school him, and no offense to Ken, but I was like, wow, there's some bad dudes, and these guys are tough, you know. And then from there, I kind of always kept my eye on it. But when I got to college, I heard there was a place by my college that did mixed martial arts training. So that's how I met Coach Jeremy Lubashevsky, who's been my head coach ever since.
All right, so when you first started out in mixed martial arts career, I guess what was the reaction to people, you know, thinking whether you were capable of doing this as a professional?
So the first time I ever walked into a mixed martial arts gym was Fighting Arts Academy in Springfield, Massachusetts. I now own my own Fighting Arts Academy in West Haven, Connecticut. But my coach, Jeremy, as soon as I walked in, said, you want to try it? Try it, let's give it a go. And he gave me a fair chance just like anyone else. And I just kind of went from there. What was the other question?
I was just gonna say the reaction to other people, maybe like opponents, or you know, just thinking because of, you know, what you have, it's not possible to do what you were doing for mixed martial arts.
The funny thing is, when I first started fighting, I actually didn't have trouble finding opponents. I had, sure, I'll fight that guy. You know, people step up and fight me. And then after my first 3 fights, people started to realize that I was actually really good, you know, and I was able to get my 2 first pro fights pretty quick. But after that, it was really hard for me to find fights. It wasn't because I had one hand, it was because I had one hand and I was good, and people didn't want to lose to me.
Now, going back to your childhood, just to be sure, what was it like with this condition? Like, was it difficult to do a lot of the things that other kids can do, or how did you adapt over time?
Growing up different is obviously always has its challenges. People say things, you know, people try to tell you what you can and can't do, even if you're already doing it. And I was raised to not to even think about my arm or my lack of a hand, and to just go out there and be a boy, to get dirty, to get hurt. Yeah. You know, I wasn't sheltered. I wasn't told to do anything different or babied because of the way I was born.
You know, like, kids can be mean growing up, obviously. Like, everybody deals with that type of stuff. Did you have that growing up? The kids saying stuff?
Definitely growing up, I always had people that had to chime in with their little comments.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing something, they had to make a little comment about my arm, or I'm out there doing something, maybe they're jealous or they don't like me for whatever reason, arm joke, you know. And to me, that was always kind of low-hanging fruit. I can't say it never hurt my feelings, but when you're born with one hand, you know, you kind of get thick skin pretty quick. Mm-hmm. When people start saying the same jokes over and over again, every time they say it, it kind of hurts you a little bit less, and you become a little bit tougher. To eventually, you just don't even care. It's like you don't have anything else, so you have to go to this. And I didn't let the things people say affect me. And to be honest with you, I surrounded myself with people of good character from an early age. I have the same friends that I've had since I was 5 years old, and I'm 32 now, so you know, we've been friends for over 25 years. And I always just kind of watched who I hung around with and the company that I kept. And if people from the outside really had something to say, I didn't care, and I never felt the need to impress someone that didn't like me for something that was out of my control.
Mm-hmm. And when you first started doing, even I guess going way back to high school wrestling, do you think people underestimated you?
Funny thing is, one time at high school, I qualified. After you go all state, you qualify for New England's, and I was at the New England tournament, and I was going against the state champ from Maine, and I went up to go put the thing on. You have to put like an ankle band on, and he's like, "Hey man, do you need help?" And I was like, "Bro, like, this is the best of the best right here. Like we're both like the best wrestlers in our state, and you're asking me if I need help putting on an ankle band? Like, I appreciate it, but I'm gonna smash you right now." And I ended up beating him pretty convincingly. I think I was in his head.
Nice. Have you experienced that at all, do you think, once you got to professional MMA level?
I don't think people sleep on me anymore. I think people actually train harder for me and go harder against me because they don't want to lose to the guy with one hand. They're like, oh, damn it! People want to fight me now because of my name and people. It's a good way to build your name off of me. But people definitely don't want to lose to me. That's because they're afraid of what people say.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you're a professional athlete, you kind of got to just shrug it off. These are two world-class guys. You're fighting me. It's a big fight, and it's going to be a tough one. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. When you started your professional MMA career, at what point did you say, like, I can do this as, this is going to be my future, basically?
So when I graduated college, I got a job working for the History Channel, and I was working the control board. So I worked the control board on the broadcast, and I would take the tapes and I would put them in to the system so they for the broadcast. And I would work all day, and then I'd train all night and go for runs and do stuff because I always wanted to train twice a day, and I didn't get much sleep. And I ended up falling asleep at work one day, and I got fired. And it just so happened to be at the same time that I got offered a contract with a league on Access TV, which is a big platform for mixed martial arts. And when I got that, I was like, okay, I'll just make a run at this for a year. And after the year was over, I got an offer for bigger money from World Series of Fighting at the time, and they gave me enough that I could live off of. So I just kind of went with that, and I ended up doing that for I haven't had a regular job since December 2011. So it's been almost 7 years right now, fighting professionally and now owning a gym.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a fight, looking back at professional career, that really kind of defines who you are as a fighter?
I definitely think that the fight that defines me most as a professional fighter is when I won the XFC World Championship. It was a big deal. I was a sizable underdog against a guy that was on a really hot streak. He'd gone to the third round with two guys that were top 5 in the world, and gave him a good fight. And people were thinking that maybe it was too soon for me, but I really shined in that fight, and I ended up finishing him in a little over a minute to win my first world title.
And you retired a little bit ago and then came back. I guess, can you talk about that decision and why that decision was made at first, and then why you decided to come back into it?
The reason why I decided to step away from the sport or retire the first time was I just had a bunch of injuries, and it was really kind of wearing me down. I had trained super hard since I was 14 years old. The minute I first stepped on a wrestling mat, I never left. I never took a break, anything. The most I took off was maybe 2 weeks from training, and then I was right back in the gym training 6 days a week, And for me, I was just run down. My body was done, and my goal from day one when I started fighting was to make it to the UFC and win in the UFC, and I thought that was just out of my reach. I thought I was never going to get a chance. So I kind of got discouraged, and I took that step back. I opened up my business. I opened up my own gym, and I started training and seeing all these young, hungry fighters that came in here, and even the everyday people that just come in to work out. I was like, I need to make another run at this. I got to give it another shot, because if I don't, I'm going to be like this old guy that's saying I could have done it, and there's only one way to find out, is if you actually do it. Mm-hmm. So I decided to come back and give it a shot, and here I am.
It was a few years ago, I can't remember the exact date, but there's kind of a famous clip of Dana White saying, oh, he'll never fight in the UFC or whatever. I guess, do you remember that? What's your reaction when somebody like that says that?
There's this clip going around the internet of Dana White, and everyone says, he said you'll never be in the UFC. And he never really said that. what he did say was, it's hard enough to fight in the UFC with two hands. I said, what do you think about the one-handed fighter? He said, it's hard enough to fight in the UFC with two hands. And he was like eating dinner or something with like one of his buddies. So like they kind of bum rushed him and he wasn't ready for it. And that's all he really said. So to me, I never took it that way. You know, obviously, he's worried about what people will say if something happened to me and if I lost. You know, if I don't win, then it's going to be, oh, see, I said that, you know, these guys with one hand, it's hard to fight these beasts at the highest level, but if I win, I'm going to be like the next biggest thing and a phenom, you know. So it's like it's like either a drastic rise or a drastic fall, either way. And mentally, I'm prepared for that, but I've done absolutely everything in my power to make sure that I win.
Speaking with a couple of your coaches earlier, you know, they say this is going to be a great moment for you, but also they felt it should have happened years ago. I'm sure you felt the same way. I mean, was it hard not to get so down, you know, thinking you're at the top of your game and almost everything, but they still wouldn't let you get into that promotion, basically?
Well, I did get down on myself,
Yeah.
And I ended up walking away from the sport. And when I walked away from the sport, I didn't stop training, though. I said, I don't know, just in case I would want to come back. Immediately, I thought that. I said I should start fixing some of the things in my game that maybe I don't do so well or I need to improve on. So I took the time to really work on the little things that you need to be an elite level fighter. And when I felt like I was an elite level fighter, I was like, hey, let's do it. You know, let's go. Let's get back in there. Let's do it. But honestly, I'm 14-1 right now, and I think that probably when I was 9-0, I was ready to go to the UFC. But I mean, life has its curveballs and life has its challenges, and you can't always, just because you want something doesn't mean you can just have it.
Yeah.
That's not how life works. So sometimes you have to work a little bit harder to get the respect of people, and you have to work a little bit harder to get to where you are. My theory is it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So if we have a race and I'm all the way back here, I'll run that much faster to pass you. And that's been my attitude since, you know, I started competing. And I think it's helped me get to where I am. So at this moment, I don't have a complaint about it. I'm more ready than I've ever been.
You're fighting Tuesday night, Dana White's Contender Series against Alex Munoz. What have you seen just watching him on film? Where do you maybe see you have advantages, or where do you need to kind of work on going into this one?
Alex Munoz is a very aggressive fighter. He comes forward, he throws bombs, you know, he has a quick knockout, quick submission. You know, but that's not a really good style against me. I love fighting people like that. That's my favorite type of fight to get into. If you watch any of my fights, that's exactly the type of fight that I love. You know, so I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I know wrestling-wise, he was a 2-time state champ, and I think he was a national champ in high school. But I've been in there, I've trained with national champs in college, and I've taken them down, I've submitted them. You know, it's not anything new. It's not anything new to me, and I'm ready to strike with anyone. I have knockouts. I have, you know, TKOs. I can do it all, and really the thing that makes it different in this fight is that I have the experience. He's 4-0. I have 15 fights, and I fought on big networks before. I fought for world titles. I've been in there with guys that were top 5 in the world. And maybe he might train with guys that are top 5 in the world, but training with someone like that and actually fighting someone like that is completely different. So I have that real world experience, and I've been through the grind, and I've had these tough moments. So it's hard to match that.
What would a win mean to you, to be able to come out with a win and get the contract?
The win is the dream, you know. When I started as this kid that was 0 wins, 17 losses, and to go from that to fighting in basically the biggest league in the world. You know, the UFC is the MLB. The UFC is the NBA. It's, you know, the NFL. But for me to kind of prove myself and make it there, it would be monumental. Because in those sports, the team sports, they want the best players, so they'll take this guy, and they don't have to worry about the guy getting beat up and looking bad. If you are playing hockey and you score on a one-handed goalie, they're gonna be like, it's not gonna look as bad as they say. People aren't gonna have as much backlash as a guy that has one hand maybe getting beat up. So for me to be good enough to the point where they're like, we don't care, that's big. I think that's really big.
Mm-hmm.
And I've busted my ass to get to where I am. My body hurts every day when I wake up in the morning. I do things no one wants to do. I miss things no one wants to miss. I missed one of my best friend's weddings because I had a fight, and I hated it, but I made this commitment and I made this lifestyle choice 17 years ago when I first stepped on a wrestling mat, and I'm still following through with it. And to be in the UFC and fight in the UFC and make that walk, that would be the culmination of years and years of hard work that no one's seen. And I'll never compare my journey to anyone else's journey or say that what I had to do was harder. Oh, I faced this adversity. I had to do this. I had to do that. That's a bunch of baloney because you don't know unless you're someone. Mm-hmm. But what I know is to myself is I sacrificed a lot and I worked very hard, and it is my dream to get to the UFC. So this guy standing in front of me he's in trouble. I'm a nice guy. I don't talk trash. I don't say mean things. I don't try to intimidate you, but when I go in there, I'm coming to rip your head off, and I'm never gonna quit, and I have 1,000 ways to win, and I know 1,000 moves, and I'm good at all of them, and I'm just ready to beat your ass. That's it. You get in there with me, I'm gonna beat your ass, and then afterwards I'm gonna shake your hand, and you're gonna go on and have a great career, but against me, it's not gonna be your night.
Just getting a quick finish, whether it's submission or just strikes, does that matter at all? I know in Contender Series you could win and still not get a contract. So does that matter? Does that matter to you? Like making it look good too?
So people have been like really campaigning for me to be in the UFC for a long time, and very passionate that I should just be in the UFC. But the UFC wants me to prove myself, so they put me against one of the toughest guys they could find. And if I rush things, that's no good. If I see an opening, I'm absolutely gonna take it. I've been working on so many different ways to finish this fight, and like I always do, I'm a quick starter and I finish these fights fast. But if I don't, it's not a big deal. Someone just got a contract with a 3rd round finish. And I've seen people get contracts with decisions, so my goal is to win. I need to keep my record intact. I'm not going to be going out acting reckless, doing stupid stuff, just because I want to get that contract. My goal first as a martial artist is to stay calm under pressure and perform. Mm-hmm. And when you start throwing out the technique and start going crazy, that's when you get caught. That's when you make mistakes. And for me, if I win and I don't get this contract, I think the internet's gonna flip out on Dana. So, hopefully I do get the contract and that doesn't happen. But I don't know, man. I've had to go through so much crap in my life and have people tell me I'm not good enough, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And I'm not perfect. I'm just like a normal human being. I don't want anyone to treat me any different. I don't want to be held on a pedestal. Oh, look at me, I have one hand and I'm proving everyone wrong and I'm doing this and I worked harder than everyone else. Like, I don't really care about that. Like, I just want to be treated like a normal person, and I want to get an opportunity like a normal person. Mm-hmm. And I'm not this Superman, like I go to bed, I'm hurting, I wake up, I'm hurting. I go to practice, I have good days, I have bad days, but I've worked so hard for something, and it's right in front of me. So all I got to do is just go out there and just take it.
That said, you look at a guy like Shaquem Griffin in the NFL. Guys who are kind of, I don't want to say breaking boundaries, but they're just doing a lot that other people weren't able to do before, and they are an inspiration to a lot of people. I mean, do you feel that a little bit, that you are inspiring people with similar conditions?
I definitely have gone out of my way ever since I started to get some notoriety to be someone that someone going through similar circumstances can talk to. Every year I go to Boston and I go to this big conference called Helping Hands, and I speak with kids that are missing hands and limbs, and they kind of pick my brain, and I talk to the parents about things I've been through and hardships that I face and stuff like that. And obviously, right now things are a little crazy, but I've always made myself available on the internet to talk to people and answer questions. And when I was growing up, my hero was Jim Abbott, and everyone knows Jim Abbott. He pitched a no-hitter for the Yankees, and the Yankees were my favorite team. So obviously I was a huge Jim Abbott fan, and I got to meet him twice, and that made a huge impact in my life. So for me, it would be a terrible thing if I didn't make myself readily available for these kids and try to be like him. To me, I could never be him because he's such an incredible person and he's done so much for me. But to try my best to kind of fill that role is fantastic. And now you have people like Shaquem Griffin that are doing it in the NFL, and he's a superstar right now. Everyone loves him, and I don't know if MMA is as popular as football, but it's also not a contest. I'm super happy for him, and I'm ecstatic that he got his chance, and I'll be rooting for the Seahawks this year.
Yeah. How many people from Connecticut do you think are gonna make the trip out?
So they only give us a few tickets. I think we only get 4 tickets to give away.
Oh, yeah, smaller.
And you can't buy tickets. So I have a few people coming out to my fight, and it should be a good time. I have a solid crew of people that never miss my fights and will fly out for my fights, and I gave them first preference, and they're all coming. So.
And do you anticipate a lot of watch parties and stuff back here?
Yeah, we're gonna have a huge watch party, and obviously everyone in Connecticut's gonna be watching. I mean, especially everyone from Milford, where I'm from, is gonna be watching, and everyone from my gym and everyone from Fighting Arts Academy in Springfield will be watching. One thing I always did was I tried to just show respect to everyone that I meet and be the best person that I can be. Obviously, I'm not perfect, but I made a lot of friends along the way, and it's a good feeling to have so many people rooting for you.